Victoria lost her company when her partner lied about her stealing money. She was poor and angry. Then a little girl came to her door asking for a job to help her sick mom. Victoria didn't know this small visitor would help her catch the real thief and get revenged. Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. Victoria Sterling sat in her corner office on the 47th floor, staring at the termination letter that had destroyed her world. Her hands shook as she read it for the 100th time. After 15 years of building Morrison & Associates from a small accounting firm into a multi-million-dollar empire, her business partner had stabbed her in the back. Effective immediately, Victoria Sterling is removed from all positions within Morrison & Associates due to financial misconduct and breach of fiduciary duty, the letter stated in cold, legal language. Financial misconduct. The words burned like acid. Every penny she'd ever spent had been documented, every decision made for the good of the company. But James Morrison had fabricated evidence, bribed board members, and painted her as a thief who'd been stealing from their clients. Victoria's phone buzzed with another hateful message from a former client who believed James's lies. Her reputation was destroyed. Her savings were frozen pending investigation. Her apartment lease had been terminated because her landlord didn't want to be associated with a criminal. At 38, Victoria had lost everything she'd worked for. All because she trusted the wrong person. The worst part was knowing that James had planned this for months. He'd systematically turned their employees against her, fed lies to their biggest clients, and convinced the board that she was unstable and untrustworthy. Now he owned everything they'd built together, and she was left with nothing but a cardboard box of personal items and a burning desire for revenge. Victoria looked out at the city skyline one last time from the office that used to be hers. "This isn't over, James," she whispered. "I'll get my company back and I'll make you pay for what you've done." 6 months later, Victoria was working as a freelance bookkeeper from a cramped studio apartment, taking any job she could find to pay for basic necessities. The financial investigation had cleared her of wrongdoing, but the damage to her reputation was done. No major company would hire someone who'd been publicly accused of embezzlement, even if the charges were false. Her savings were gone. Her credit was ruined. She was surviving on instant noodles and whatever work she could scrape together. But through it all, she held on to one burning goal: rebuild her career and destroy James Morrison in the process. Victoria had been quietly gathering evidence of James's real crimes. She'd discovered that he'd been skimming money from client accounts for years, hiding behind complex financial structures that made the theft nearly impossible to detect. She'd also learned that he'd used company funds for personal expenses, violated numerous SEC regulations, and committed tax fraud on a massive scale. The plan was simple: build a new company, steal Morrison & Associates' biggest clients by exposing James's crimes, and watch him lose everything just like she had. She'd already incorporated Sterling Financial Solutions and was preparing to launch her revenge. All she needed was her first major client to get started. Victoria was reviewing client proposals in her makeshift home office when she heard a soft knock at her door. She wasn't expecting anyone. These days she barely had contact with other people except through email and phone calls. When she opened the door, she found a little girl standing in the hallway. The child couldn't have been more than 8 years old, wearing a wrinkled school uniform that was too big for her small frame. Her dark hair was neatly braided, but Victoria could see that it had been done by inexperienced hands. The girl carried a manila folder and looked up at Victoria with serious brown eyes. "Are you Miss Victoria Sterling?" the girl asked in a small but clear voice. "Yes, I am." "Are you lost, sweetheart? Where are your parents?" "I'm here for the job interview," the child said, standing up straighter. "My name is Emma Rodriguez, and I'm here to apply for the assistant position at Sterling Financial Solutions." Victoria blinked in confusion. "I'm sorry, what? There must be some mistake. I haven't posted any job openings, and even if I had, you're just a child." Emma opened her manila folder and pulled out a handwritten letter. "I know I'm only 8, but I'm very good with numbers and organizing things. My mom taught me how to use spreadsheets and answer phones properly. I can work after school and on weekends." Something about the girl's earnest determination reminded Victoria of herself at that age. Serious, driven, mature beyond her years. But this was obviously some kind of misunderstanding. "Emma, honey, where is your mother? Does she know you're here?" Emma's composure cracked slightly, and Victoria saw tears begin to form in her eyes. "My mom is in the hospital. She's been there for 2 weeks. The doctors say she needs an operation, but we don't have insurance and the bills are really big. I heard her crying on the phone with the hospital people about money." Victoria's heart clenched. Sweetheart, how did you even find me? How do you know about my company? I used Mom's computer to search for jobs near our apartment. Your name came up, and when I read about your company, it sounded like the kind of place Mom would want to work. She's really good with numbers too, and she's been looking for a job for months. Victoria knelt down to Emma's eye level. What's your mother's name? Sarah Rodriguez. She used to work at Morrison and Associates until Mr. Morrison fired her last month. He said the company was cutting costs, but Mom thinks it was because she asked too many questions about some numbers that didn't look right. Victoria felt like she'd been struck by lightning. Sarah Rodriguez, she remembered her now. A talented junior accountant who'd been asking questions about discrepancies in client accounts. Questions that probably would have exposed James's embezzlement if she'd been allowed to continue investigating. Emma, where exactly is your mother in the hospital? St. Mary's Medical Center. She has something wrong with her heart, and they say she needs surgery soon or she might. Emma couldn't finish the sentence, but Victoria understood. That afternoon, Victoria drove to St. Mary's Medical Center with Emma beside her in the passenger seat. The little girl had insisted on coming back to check on her mother, and Victoria didn't have the heart to refuse. They found Sarah Rodriguez in a shared room in the cardiac unit, connected to multiple monitors and looking frighteningly pale. When she saw Emma, her face lit up with a mixture of joy and concern. Emma baby, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be at Mrs. Chen's apartment doing your homework. I went to apply for a job, Mom. To help with the hospital bills. Sarah's eyes filled with tears as she looked at her daughter, then noticed Victoria standing behind Emma. I'm sorry, do I know you? Sarah, my name is Victoria Sterling. I used to be your boss at Morrison and Associates, before James Morrison destroyed both our careers. Sarah's eyes widened in recognition. Miss Sterling? But I thought, the news said you were embezzling funds? That was all lies. James framed me to cover up his own crimes. The same crimes you were starting to uncover when he fired you. Victoria sat down in the chair next to Sarah's bed. Your daughter came to my apartment today asking for a job. She wanted to help pay your medical bills. That's when I realized who you were and what James had done to you. Sarah struggled to sit up straighter. Emma, you can't just go to strangers' houses. That's dangerous. But Mom, you need the operation and we don't have money. I thought if I could get a job. Victoria felt her heart breaking for this family. She thought about her own quest for revenge against James Morrison, and suddenly realized that helping Sarah and Emma wasn't just the right thing to do. It was the perfect way to strike back at the man who'd hurt them all. Sarah, I have a proposition for you, Victoria said. But first, tell me what you discovered at Morrison and Associates. What were those numbers that didn't look right? Over the next hour, Sarah explained what she'd found during her last weeks at Morrison and Associates. She'd been reviewing client accounts when she noticed that several large payments had been processed through unusual channels. When she tried to verify the transactions, she discovered that money was being siphoned off into accounts that didn't match the official records. I tried to bring it to Mr. Morrison's attention, Sarah said weakly. I thought maybe it was just a mistake in the bookkeeping system. But when I showed him the discrepancies, he became angry and defensive. He said I was overstepping my authority and didn't understand how the business worked. And then he fired you, Victoria concluded. A week later. He said it was budget cuts, but I knew it was because I'd found something he didn't want me to find. Victoria pulled out her phone and showed Sarah some of the evidence she'd been gathering. You were right. James has been stealing from client accounts for years. What you found was just the tip of the iceberg. He's been running a sophisticated embezzlement scheme, and when I started getting too close to the truth, he framed me and took over the company. Sarah looked shocked. So you really didn't steal any money? Not a penny. But James made it look like I did, and now he's running Morrison and Associates while both of us are suffering for his crimes. Emma had been listening quietly, but now she spoke up. So Mr. Morrison is a bad man who steals money and lies about people? Yes, sweetheart, that's exactly what he is, Victoria said. Then we should stop him, Emma said with the simple logic of a child. We should make him give back what he stole and tell everyone the truth. Victoria smiled at Emma's determination. That's exactly what we're going to do. But first, we need to take care of your mom. Victoria spent the next few days making arrangements. She used her remaining savings to pay for Sarah's heart surgery, telling the hospital administration that she was Sarah's employer and the medical expenses were covered under their company health plan. It was a lie, but a necessary one. While Sarah recovered from her surgery, Victoria and Emma spent time together planning their strategy against James Morrison. Emma was surprisingly helpful despite her age. She had an intuitive understanding of numbers and patterns that reminded Victoria why she'd been drawn to accounting in the first place. "Mom taught me that numbers always tell the truth," Emma explained as they reviewed financial documents together. "She said people can lie with words, but numbers don't lie." "Your mother is very wise," Victoria said. "And she's right. James Morrison has been lying with words for months, but the numbers will expose him." When Sarah was finally released from the hospital, Victoria made her offer official. "I want you to come work for Sterling Financial Solutions as my partner, not just my employee. Together we're going to build something better than Morrison and Associates ever was. And we're going to use it to destroy James Morrison." Sarah was hesitant at first. "Victoria, I appreciate everything you've done for Emma and me, but I don't want you to feel obligated." "This isn't charity," Victoria interrupted. "This is business. You're talented, you're honest, and you know James's operation from the inside. Plus, you have something I lost, the respect of the employees who are still working there. Some of them might be willing to help us if they knew the truth." Sarah thought about it for a moment, then nodded. "What do you need me to do?" Over the next 3 months, Victoria and Sarah worked together to build their case against James Morrison. They documented every instance of financial fraud they could find, gathered testimonies from former employees who'd been mistreated, and compiled evidence of James's lavish lifestyle funded by stolen money. Emma became their unofficial mascot, helping with filing and organization after school. She had a talent for spotting patterns in data that even trained accountants missed. Victoria began to think of her as the daughter she'd never had, and Sarah became the sister she'd never known she needed. Their first major break came when Sarah contacted Maria Gonzalez, another former Morrison and Associates employee who'd been fired for asking uncomfortable questions. Maria revealed that she'd been keeping copies of suspicious transactions, afraid that she might need them someday to protect herself. "I knew something wasn't right," Maria told them during a secret meeting at Victoria's apartment. James was living way beyond what his salary should have allowed. New cars, expensive vacations, a house in the Hamptons. Meanwhile, he was cutting employee benefits and claiming the company was struggling financially. With Maria's evidence added to their growing pile of documentation, Victoria felt confident enough to take the next step. She contacted the Securities and Exchange Commission, the IRS, and the FBI, providing them with comprehensive evidence of James's crimes. But Victoria wanted more than just to see James arrested. She wanted to destroy him the same way he'd destroyed her, by taking away everything he'd built and leaving him with nothing. Victoria's opportunity came when Morrison and Associates lost their biggest client due to an accounting error that James tried to cover up. Word spread quickly through the industry that the firm was having serious problems, and other clients began asking questions about their account security. That's when Victoria struck. Sterling Financial Solutions reached out to Morrison and Associates clients, offering to review their accounts for free to ensure they hadn't been victims of financial misconduct. The offer was irresistible to worried business owners who were already losing confidence in James's leadership. Within 2 weeks, Sterling Financial Solutions had taken on 12 major clients from Morrison and Associates. Each client brought with them evidence of irregularities in their previous accounting, further strengthening Victoria's case against James. Sarah proved invaluable during this process. Her knowledge of Morrison and Associates' internal systems and her relationships with former colleagues helped them understand exactly how James had been manipulating the books. She also reached out to current employees who were afraid of losing their jobs, offering them positions at Sterling Financial Solutions if they were willing to testify about James's illegal activities. "It's working," Sarah told Victoria one evening as they reviewed their client list. "We're not just taking his business, we're exposing his crimes. The FBI called today. They're ready to move forward with charges." Victoria felt a surge of satisfaction, but it was tempered by something she hadn't expected. "You know what's strange? I thought revenge would feel better than this." "What do you mean?" "When I started this, all I wanted was to destroy James Morrison. I wanted him to lose everything like I did. But now I realize that the best revenge isn't destroying him. It's building something better than what he took from me." The FBI arrested James Morrison on a Tuesday morning in front of his entire staff. Victoria watched from across the street as he was led away in handcuffs, his expensive suit wrinkled and his face pale with shock. She felt no joy in the moment, only a quiet sense that justice was finally being served. The charges against James were extensive: embezzlement, tax fraud, securities violations, and conspiracy. The evidence Victoria and Sarah had gathered proved that he'd stolen over $2 million from client accounts over a period of 5 years. He'd also used company funds to pay for personal expenses totaling another $500,000. Morrison and Associates collapsed within a week of James's arrest. Most of their remaining clients transferred their business to Sterling Financial Solutions, which had grown from a one-woman operation in Victoria's studio apartment to a thriving firm with 15 employees and offices in a downtown high-rise. Sarah had become Victoria's equal partner in the business, and their different strengths complemented each other perfectly. Victoria handled strategy and client relations, while Sarah managed operations and financial analysis. Together, they'd built something stronger than either of them could have created alone. Emma continued to visit the office after school, and Victoria had set up a college fund for her that would ensure she could pursue any career she wanted. The little girl who'd shown up for a job interview had inadvertently set in motion the events that brought down a criminal and built a new empire. 1 year after Emma's unexpected job interview, Victoria stood in the conference room of Sterling Financial Solutions, looking out at the team they'd assembled. Sarah was presenting their annual financial report to their employees, and Victoria felt a deep sense of pride in what they'd accomplished. They weren't just successful, they were ethical. Every employee was treated with respect, paid fairly, and given opportunities for advancement. They'd implemented strict oversight procedures to ensure that no one could ever manipulate their books the way James had done. Most importantly, they'd created a culture where asking questions and reporting problems was encouraged, not punished. Emma was there too, now 9 years old and still fascinated by numbers and business. She sat in a corner with her homework, occasionally looking up to listen to the adult conversations around her. "You know," Sarah said to Victoria after the meeting ended, "Emma still tells people that she's going to work here someday. She says she's going to be the youngest CEO in history." Victoria laughed. "She probably will be. That little girl has more business sense than most adults I know." "She saved us, you know," Sarah said quietly. "If she hadn't shown up at your door that day, I would have died waiting for surgery I couldn't afford, and James Morrison would still be stealing from innocent people." Victoria nodded, thinking about the strange chain of events that had brought them all together. Sometimes the best things in life come from the most unexpected places. I was so focused on revenge that I almost missed the real gift Emma was offering me. What was that? A family. A real partnership. A chance to build something meaningful instead of just tearing something down. Emma looked up from her homework. "Are you talking about me?" "We're talking about how you changed both our lives," Victoria said, walking over to give Emma a hug. "I just wanted to help my mom," Emma said simply. "And I thought if I could get a job, maybe things would be okay." "Things are more than okay," Victoria said. "Things are perfect." As Victoria looked around the office at the life she'd built from the ashes of her old one, she realized that Emma had been right all along. Sometimes the solution to big problems isn't big at all. Sometimes it's as simple as a little girl with a manila folder and the courage to knock on a stranger's door. James Morrison was serving a 10-year prison sentence and would spend the rest of his life paying restitution to the people he'd stolen from. But Victoria barely thought about him anymore. She was too busy building the future with the family she'd found in the most unexpected way.